These stories are based on real life events. The purpose of sharing these experiences is not to spread fear or superstition, but to document an encounter with the unknown. Listener discretion is advised. Visuals are made with AI.
The afternoon heat was heavy and thick, the kind of summer humidity that clings to your clothes the second you step outside. It was mid-July, and my parents had left me home alone for the weekend while they took a trip to coastal Maine. At 16, having the 4-bedroom house in suburban Cranston, Rhode Island all to myself felt like total freedom. My best friend Julian was over, and we were stretched out on lawn chairs on the back patio, drinking lukewarm sodas with the slider door propped wide open to let a breeze flow into the kitchen. Our backyard backs right up into a dense patch of municipal woods, a wall of dark green oak and maple trees that separates our neighborhood from the highway beyond. Around 4 p.m., a sudden thunderstorm rolled in. Thunder rattled the outdoor patio furniture, and heavy raindrops started smacking against the concrete. "We should probably take this inside," Julian said, grabbing his drink and stepping through the open sliding glass door. I grabbed the remaining cans off the glass patio table, turned back toward the house, and stepped into the kitchen. Just as I reached to slide the screen and glass doors shut and lock them, a massive crack of thunder shook the floorboards. That's when I noticed it. On the hardwood floor right in front of the kitchen island, about 10 feet inside from the open patio door, was a trail of wet, muddy footprints. They weren't shoes. They were the dark, detailed imprints of wide, bare feet, dripping with rainwater and black dirt. My chest went tight. "Julian, did you walk over by the pantry?" "No, I'm sitting on the living room couch," he called back. I froze, looking down at the tracks. The footprints didn't lead back toward the patio. They led straight past the kitchen island, into the dark hallway, and directly toward the door of the basement stairs. Someone had slipped through the wide-open patio door while our backs were turned during the rain, barefoot and soaking wet, and gone down into our basement. "Julian," I whispered, stepping into the living room and grabbing his forearm. "Shut up and listen to me. Someone just walked into the house." Julian's face went pale, thinking I was pulling a stunt, until he saw the expression on my face. I pulled him back into the kitchen and pointed at the fresh, wet mud glistening on the floorboards. The basement door at the end of the hallway was sitting ajar by just 2 inches. My pulse was hammering in my ears. I didn't want to play detective. I grabbed Julian's shirt, pulled him out onto the back deck into the pouring rain, and shoved the sliding door shut behind us. "Call 911, I gasped, whipping out my phone with trembling, rain-slicked hands. While the emergency dispatcher took my address, Julian and I stood in the middle of the deluge on the back lawn, staring up at the house. My heart was pounding out of my chest as I watched the second-floor windows, waiting to see a shadow or a face. 5 excruciating minutes passed before the blue and red lights flashed through our neighbor's trees. 2 patrol cars pulled up the driveway. 2 officers stepped out, rain slickers shining under the streetlights. I sprinted out to the front yard, pointed frantic fingers toward the back, and explained the muddy, bare footprints leading straight down to the basement. "Stay right here by the cruiser," the lead officer ordered, unholstering his firearm. "We're going in." They went through the front door with their flashlights drawn. Julian and I stood in the heavy downpour, huddled near the police car, waiting for the shout, the struggle, or the sound of handcuffs clicking shut. 10 minutes later, both officers walked back out the front door. Neither of them had their weapons drawn. "Kid," the lead officer said, wiping rain off his face as he walked up to us. "We swept the whole place. Basements, closets, bedrooms, attic, crawl space. There's no one in the house." "What?" I stammered, my voice cracking. "That's impossible." The muddy tracks were right there. They went straight to the basement door. "We saw the tracks," the officer replied, his tone shifting from high alert to skeptical annoyance. They lead down the basement steps, sure. But the exterior bulkhead door in your basement was unlocked and pushed wide open from the inside. Whoever was in your house took those stairs, went straight out the storm doors into the woods, and vanished before we even pulled up. My stomach dropped into a cold pit. The police took a brief report, advised me to lock the bulkhead doors, and left. They couldn't search miles of dark, wet woods for a nameless trespasser who was already gone. That night, Julian's parents picked him up. His dad refused to let him stay over. I locked every deadbolt, latched every window, and dragged a heavy armchair in front of the basement door. But as I sat on the living room couch with every light in the house turned on, staring out into the pitch-black woods behind the patio, in most horror stories, the police catch the intruder hiding in the closet, and the nightmare ends. But as I sat alone in the quiet house, listening to the rain tap against the glass, the horrifying reality set in. He had been standing in my kitchen, feet away from me. He knew what I looked like, he knew where I lived, and he was still out there. I'm writing this down right now at my kitchen table, mostly because I haven't slept properly in 8 weeks. It happened 2 months ago, late May of 2026, and even though time has passed, every single detail is still burned into my brain, like it happened 10 minutes ago. I know my mind keeps trying to rationalize it, but I know what I saw. I know what I heard. My wife and I bought our home in suburban Ohio 2 years ago. It's a quiet neighborhood, but our lot is unique because the back of our yard borders a sprawling, undeveloped plot of land owned by the county. About 40 acres of overgrown brush, tall pines, and thick woods, to give ourselves some privacy. I spent last autumn building a 6-foot wooden privacy fence along the perimeter, complete with a heavy latching gate that leads out into the brush. Behind our garage, tucked in the far shadow of the fence line, I set up a small fire pit and a couple of wooden Adirondack chairs. It was my quiet spot to sit, after my wife went to bed, clear my head and unwind. That night, around 11:15 p.m. back at the end of May, I went out back like I did almost every evening. It was dead silent out. No wind, no crickets, just that heavy, suffocating, late spring stillness. The only light was the warm glow from our kitchen window, 50 feet behind me, and the pale moonlight filtering through the trees over the fence. I sat down in one of the chairs, cracked open a cold drink, and leaned back. About 10 minutes in, I heard a soft sound coming from the thick brush, just on the other side of the wooden fence. It was a faint, rhythmic dragging sound, like heavy canvas or wet wool being pulled slowly over dead leaves. I froze, my drink halfway to my mouth. We get deer and raccoons all the time, but wild animals don't move like that. There was no snapping of twigs, no rustling of branches, just that deliberate, heavy drag. It stopped right on the other side of the boards, less than 3 feet from where I was sitting. I sat, dead still, holding my breath, staring at the seam between 2 fence pickets. Then right at ear level on the outside of the fence, I heard a wet, raspy breath, slow, long, taking in the scent of the backyard. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard it was dizzying. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it was just a neighbor's dog that had gotten loose in the woods. "Hey, get out of here!" I yelled, trying to force confidence into my voice. The breathing stopped instantly. An agonizing 10 seconds passed in absolute silence. Then came 3 soft, distinct knocks on the outside of the wooden fence. Knock, 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 knuckles on aged wood, right behind my head. I scrambled out of the chair so fast I knocked my drink onto the grass. I backed up toward the patio, keeping my eyes locked on the dark line of the fence. That's when I saw the gate latch. It's an old iron drop latch that rests in a heavy metal groove. Slowly, without a single sound from the hinges, the iron bar began to lift. Inch by inch, the black metal lever rose out of its notch. My throat closed up. I couldn't even scream. I just stood frozen on the lawn as the wooden gate swung inward an inch, breaking the flush seal of the fence line. Through that tiny, dark gap in the wood, a hand reached through. It wasn't a paw. It was a long, pale, filthy human hand with dark, caked dirt crammed under the fingernails. The fingers wrapped around the edge of the wooden gate post, the skin so stretched and tight over the knuckles it looked raw. Then a voice whispered from the darkness on the other side of the gap. It didn't sound like a normal person calling out. It was a dry, rasping wheeze, barely louder than the rustling leaves, but impossibly clear in the dead night. "You left the light on in the kitchen." A wave of pure, primal terror hit me like an electric shock. Whoever or whatever was on the other side of that gate wasn't just standing in the woods. They had been watching my house. They knew the layout of my yard. They knew I was alone out there. I didn't wait to see the rest of them step through. I turned and sprinted across the grass, faster than I've ever run in my life, hit the back deck, threw myself through the glass sliding door, and slammed it shut. I threw the primary latch, shoved the security bar into the track, and locked the deadbolts on every single door in the house. My wife woke up when I burst into the bedroom, pale and drenched in cold sweat. I grabbed my flashlight and my 9mm handgun from the nightstand, telling her to stay in the room and lock the door behind me. I stood at the dark kitchen window, pressing myself against the wall, peering out into the yard with the gun raised. The backyard was empty. The fire pit sat silent, but down at the far end of the lawn, bathed in the moonlight, the wooden gate was swinging wide open, creaking softly back and forth on its hinges into the blackness of the woods. I called the county sheriff. A patrol car arrived. 2 deputies walked the perimeter with high-powered spotlights, checking the fence line and stepping a few yards into the brush behind the property. They didn't find anyone, but when the deputy walked back up to my deck to take my statement, his face was grim. "Mr. Davis," he said, shining his flashlight down at the grass near my fire pit. "Did you walk out past the chairs into the flower beds earlier tonight?" "No," I stammered, my hand shaking as I held my glass of water. "I stayed right by the fire pit." He gestured for me to look down, right next to my Adirondack chair, not on the wood chip path, but directly in the soft soil of my wife's garden bed, were 2 deep, wide impressions. Bare, caked mud foot tracks pointing straight at the back of my chair. Whoever it was hadn't just been waiting on the other side of the fence. Before I had even walked out to the fire pit that night 2 months ago, they had already been standing in my yard, inches from where I usually sit, waiting in the dark behind the garage for me to come outside. I spent the next morning buying heavy-duty padlocks for every gate on the property, motion sensor floodlights for every corner of the yard, and security cameras covering every inch of the grass. It's been 2 months now. The cameras haven't picked up anything since, and the woods have stayed quiet. But every time I look out my kitchen window after dark, I don't see my backyard anymore. I just remember that they didn't run away into the dark. They just went back into the trees to wait.